May we be inspired by their vision and valor. May their lives continuously remind us that service is more important than success, that people are more important than possessions, that principle is more important than power. May whatever we do be shaped and molded by honesty, competence, and commitment. May our children and our children's children carry forth with pride the nobility of our history and tradition. To the Creator of us all, we dedicate our lives to make this world better and more beautiful. Ashe. Good morning, family. I am a New Orleans artist, which means I live and breathe culture. It is the soundtrack to our lives. It is the tone of our existence. It lays lineage to the history in all of us, to the roots, the neighborhoods, and this nation. To live in New Orleans is to plan a part of our lives around second lines and super Sundays, festivals and celebrations. We open our windows and discover that we've gained an ancestor because the music says that we pay homage. To live in New Orleans is to have an intimate relationship with culture and rhythm and walk to a beat that only sometimes we can hear. We are a magical, mystical, musical place where we sing and dance because celebration is not only beautiful, it's necessary. And it's every bit of who we are. So finally, welcome to New Orleans. This region is known as Bobancha. It's a Choctaw term meaning place of many tongues. It was originally inhabited by the Chitimacha Nation, and prior to 1718, it served as an important trading hub for more than 40 diverse indigenous peoples, including the Atakapa Ishak, the Caddo, the Chitimacha, the Choctaw, the Homa, the Natchez, the Tunica peoples, as well as the Petite Nations. We also like to recognize the Biloxi, the Alabama, the Cosati, the Ofo folks, all those folks who were pushed into Louisiana from their ancestral lands. I do land acknowledgements not only for to name those folks, but to affirm the legacy of colonialism and the imposition that is white supremacy. We do it to talk about the conquest of that land which was taken by domination and then domination of the people who inhabited it. We acknowledge the non-Western ways of knowing that holistically link mind, body, and spirit. We think about our non-human friends and relatives. We think about our own friends and relatives. And it gives us an opportunity to raise questions like, what does it mean to live in a post-colonial world? What does it mean to say the word freedom? How did we get here, and what did we do to play a part in our getting here? It also gives us an opportunity to honor knowledge and say whose knowledge gets honored, whose knowledge gets erased. What is the knowledge that we hold, and how do we pass it on? So we give thanks to all the nations and tribes of this Atchafalaya Basin, this Mississippi Gulf Coast, this delta, as you say. We affirm their legacy and the legacy of the African ancestors who often commingle with them to make this city what it is, and all those who were there see what that we might be. So join us in this ownership of the past with this visceral mixture of pain, celebration, resilience, the horrific history and the injuries towards humanity. Join us as we come together in the spirit of movement, in the light of atonement, in the depth of acknowledgement, and the vigor of intention towards an inclusive, equitable, just, and liberated future for all of us. And with that, we say, Ashe.
choir of voices so majestic, heaven hides us in a tapestry of light, or we are stars, blankets of wonder, sky bright eyes seeing the invisible, visible, you who have returned. You have turned our faces so that we see ourselves, and we have found you again in places we would have never imagined. You make our limits infinitely long. Our vision is clearer with eyes closed, and even there, you still stand in full color, vibrant and eager to serve.
I'm as white as my words. I'm no longer small. I am as tall as the trees bending beneath the weight of God's breath. I'm no longer frail. I'm like a city of two tales, one behind me and one that goes before me. And what my head can't reach, my hands bring to me. And what my head can't reach, my hands bring to me. I'm no longer little, but I'm as white as God's words. I'm no longer small. I am as tall as the trees bending beneath the weight of God's breath. I'm no longer frail, but I'm like a city with two tales, one behind me, leave it back there, and one that goes before me. And what my head can't reach, my hands bring to me. And what my head can't reach, my hands bring to me. 'Cause I brought heaven to me. I bring life to me, and it's calling my name. It's calling my name, and I bring peace to me, strength and clarity, and it's drawing me deeper. It's drawing me deeper, and I bring love towards me. It's beauty, and it's calling my name. It's calling my name, 'cause I'm no longer little, but I'm as white as God's word. I'm no longer small. I am as tall as the trees bending beneath the weight of God's breath. So breathe on me, breathe on me, and draw me deeper, draw me deeper. So breathe on me, breathe I'm no longer small. I am as tall as the trees bending beneath the weight of God's breath. I'm no longer frail, but I'm like a city with two tails, one behind me and one that goes before me. And what my head can't reach, my hands pull to me. And what my head can't reach, my hands bring to me.
So here we are, made bigger by our togetherness, more expanded by our dreams, and not the dreams that come by way of sleep, but the ones that wake us up, the ones that remind, the ones that repair, the ones that renew. All of the ones that mend the broken world, weaving hearts with the golden thread of love, moved by the strength of inner transformation and will. We are here, gathering ourselves and all of our communities from the north, from the south, from the east, and from the west, doing the daunting and tedious, sometimes ugly, but always beautiful work of imagining an America that is fair, that is just, that is whole, but most importantly, one that is free.
family. Give your love to the Kumbuka Drum and Dance Collective. Sister Jarrell Hamilton. My dear sister Karen Green. And the incomparable Miss Sonny Patterson. All right. So rituals, right? Y'all feel a little nourished this morning? Okay. It's my pleasure at this time to bring up a dear, dear friend and a chief instigator on the West Coast. Erica Cole-Arenas is the Associate Professor in American Studies at the University of California, Davis, and the Faculty Director of Imagining America. But I also say that Erica is so much more than just those things, beyond her scholarship and beyond her just love for humanity. You know, when you meet somebody and you can see the fight in them, you know, you can recognize it, like you see, oh, this is a tribe member of mine, you know. So from the first time we met, I saw that, and as we've gotten a chance to work together, you know, she is someone who unsheaths the armor and runs straight into the thick of things. And I appreciate that about a fellow instigator. So at this time, give your love to Erica Cole-Arenas, Dr. Erica Cole-Arenas.
Oh my goodness. Hello, people. Thank you, Wood. The videographer today named me Little Big Boss, so I appreciate that, Wood, but I want to say you didn't get a proper introduction. So if you don't know Frederick, affectionately known as Wood Dalhousie, you really should. Wood has been with us for these 3 years. We visited New Orleans in 2019 thinking we were putting on a 2020 show. And since that time, you've been a fierce co-conspirator and collaborator and designer and producer and friend. And so can we please give Wood a huge round of applause? Well, welcome everyone to the 2022 Imagining America National Gathering. Woo! This has been a very long time coming, as you know, and I'm just so excited to be here with you for 3 days of rituals of renewal and repair. What a beautiful opening. I'm just sitting with those words and the dances and the movement. Really quite an honor and a privilege to serve this community. Imagining America, artists and scholars in public life is just that, a messy, big, diverse network of artists, scholars, organizers, cultural bearers, teachers, students who can see a new world, who can imagine a new world coming, a world that is better, that is more beautiful, that's more caring, that's more just, and who believe really deeply in their hearts that each and every one of us has a role to play in hastening its arrival. And Imagining America is us. So thank you, and thank you for being here. Greeting folks coming off the buses. I didn't really recognize and realize how many of you I know and love, and so many beautiful new faces, and so it's just such a joy to be here. My main role here today is to welcome you from Imagining America, but also to thank some really important people. We've been on this 3-year journey to arrive here today with 2 really important partners. Obviously, the Ashe Cultural Arts Center has been a partner with Imagining America for many years. So I want to especially thank Wood again, and also thank Ashe's fierce director, Asali Devan Ecclesiastes, over here. Thank you so much. I want to thank the dear Carol Bebel, our guest of honor today, for your leadership, and all of the amazing staff and team at Ashe for being on this journey with us. We're also organizing this event in partnership with Tulane University's Center for Public Service. And I want to thank them for sticking with us and being the most amazing and committed partners through what were some rocky roads, but we're here together today. And so I want to thank Agnieszka Nance, the center director, for your leadership, for your support throughout all these years, and our two real close partners, Ryan McBride and Deanna Soto Olsen, for your beautiful work with us. In true IA fashion, we started with a huge steering committee of local and national folks to build this event together. We winnowed it down to a few of us committed for the long haul to push us through the final stretch to get here today. We didn't want this big a group to have to plan for 3 years. So I want to thank the folks in this final working group who stuck with us. Again, Ryan McBride and Deanna Soto Olsen. Denise Frazier, hope you're here in the house, we could thank you. Milman Harrison from Davis. Milman, so much thanks. Wood, Carol Bebel again, Sharice Harris Nelson, who we will have the honor of joining with in activity tomorrow morning, Miriam Taylor, Mapo Kinord, and Justin Wolf. Thank you so much to the working group. I did see Ron Bachet, so I want to give Ron Bachet a shout out, who's part of the bigger group and with us on our issue of Public coming out this next few months. Thank you, Ron. And so many more of you. Another thanks, a final thanks to the IA staff team. It's always a heavy lift to launch these events, and I know they're running around making sure everything and everyone's where they should be, so thank you, IA staff. So without further ado, I introduce you to the amazing Asale Divan Ecclesiastes, who will in turn introduce our presenter, Carol Bebel, the recipient of Imagining America's Randy Martin Spirit Award. Asale is a mother, a daughter, an educator, and organizer, an author, an event producer, a performance artist, and a community servant. She brings her deep roots in New Orleans indigenous culture to her work as the Chief Equity Officer of Ashe Cultural Arts Center, where she leads the organization's mission of using art and culture to support human, community, and economic development, to deliver programming and services to leverage and celebrate the people, places, and philosophies of the African diaspora. There's so much more, a very celebrated local, and I want to welcome you.
Good morning. How y'all doing? How your mama now? Y'all been eating? Y'all been dancing? Y'all been listening to some good music? Okay. I'ma check on y'all way out. Don't come to New Orleans and just be conferencing and not do and be New Orleans stuff, okay? So I have the honor and the privilege of introducing you to someone who is not just so critical in my life, but in the life of our city, and I dare say in the lives of people who believe in the collective we around the world. When I was selected to take over the organization that Carol Bebel and Douglas Red founded, of course I was like, OMG, how am I going to do this? And what Mama Carol said to me was that you don't need to follow in our footsteps because you can fly. That is who Carol Bebel is. She gives you so much belief and encouragement in the possibilities of humanity, in the possibilities of people and culture and this collective we that oftentimes seem like, I don't even know those people, I don't know where they come from, they can't be part of the same anything that I'm a part of. And Carol Bebel helps you to realize and understand that not only is that not true, You can't be all of who you are without one another. And while there's like a whole bunch of things I could say about her and her accolades and all of the things she's done, the awards she's won, the program she's started, it's much more important for you, in my opinion, to know that. And for you to open yourselves up at this moment to receive what is bound to be a message that will carry you and yours and us all into the America of our imagination. Thank you.
Goodness gracious. I don't know about you, but I got to take a breath here. I'm hoping that your minds, your hearts, my pores are even open after this opening this morning. Along with everyone else, I want to welcome you. It's been 3 years, and it's been a struggle to manage to get us back together. And togetherness is where, everything happens, when we work together. So when I was told about the award, it's like I went, ooh. And I said, wow, okay. And so I want to thank Erica and the IA team and the IA Advisory Board for selecting me for this honor. It certainly sets a goal for me to continue to live into. And we all need those things to help us to rise every morning and to manage to find a way to be active and a part of trying to make things better. So thank you very much for that. For 3 years, I languished over what in the world I was going to wind up doing here today. My problem is I'm full of content, and it was like how to be able to figure out what it is that I could bring to you in 45 minutes. So then Erica asked me a very simple question. She said, Carol, how can that 45 minutes serve you? And so it forced me to kind of figure out how I could talk about the journey of my life and what has brought me to where I am. And so that's why the session is called that, what it comes down to. So often something very big comes down to something very small. And that's what I want to talk with you a little bit about this morning. It's called the cultural continuum. But I'm going to start by talking a little bit about me. I'm a native New Orleans. I've been here all my life. I had several efforts to try to leave, and they all failed. And I just decided that the universe was telling me that I wasn't leaving then, at least. And I decided to do other things. And so I find myself these 70 years later still here. And I am so happy that I am. This is a place that I love dearly. So I started off here in what is the 7th Ward of New Orleans, the granddaughter of 2 Baptist ministers, and one I lived with. And he was in the 7th Ward, which was a very Catholic part of the city. So being a Baptist minister and a Catholics, something interesting. And the church was also there. And so I grew up inside of church, and church is what really brought culture to me. At the time, I didn't realize that because I was a little kid. But song, spoken word, dance, spirit, all of that happened in church. And then I went on to be a 16-year-old graduate and attended a university that was in the 2nd year of integrating So here I was again inside of a kind of a bridging circumstance there. And at 20, I was in the world. At that time, being the first graduate in my family, I needed to get a job because I'd gotten a college degree, right? And so I did. And my blessing started there. I went to the school board where I became the community engagement person for the Title I program, which was a compensatory education program. And it was there that I started a 20-some year journey of doing community engaged human service planning. We put the first parent on the school board. And so that was the beginning. Went on to the city where I worked as the city's planner for substance abuse prevention and treatment services. Again, doing community engaged work, okay? Then moving on, I went to the health department. And so by about 20-some years, I realized that I had just been doing what seemed next. I never really made any choice. So I stepped out of the path and started doing more of the work I'd been doing on the side, which was working with churches and cultural organizations and social organizations and that kind of thing. And then I came to know a man named Douglas Redd. I know his work first, because I saw his work everywhere. And then I had the opportunity to meet him because of some of the cultural organizations I was working with. And in our conversations, we both began to lament the fact that everything in the city, black folks were moving into middle and senior management. And the thing that the people owned most was the culture, and there was almost no place that you could go where there was someone that looked like us, that you could go into a building or get key or permission to do it. And I just thought that was just ridiculous. And then an opportunity presented itself for us to wind up on the boulevard where Ashe was born. So what I want to talk about today is what those 21 years of Ashe and the 20-some years of human service planning has brought to me as what I call a cultural continuum. How it is that humans work up and down this continuum. The beginning of the continuum is cultural rooting. Now, cultural rooting is what it sounds like. We're born into a circumstance, and we get both physical and, so it's nature and nurture working at the same time. Our roles, our rules, our rituals, our folkways, our traditions, all of that comes from our rooting area. And that's what we carry, that's what we carry going forward. And so we get our names, we get our likes and our dislikes, we get so much. And the rooting period is, can be 2 or 3 years or 1 year or whatever. I'm talking about the initial journey that we make. Now, we go back there often, which is why it's a continuum. We go back, several times in a lifetime. The next thing is bearing. Now, so we have cultural rooting, and then we get to cultural bearing. Now, bearing is the owning of the stuff that we're given. Like starting to wear it, starting to have it be ours. We talk about babies and the terrible or the terrific twos. Owning that no, And so we move on then to like really bearing. We often talk about cultural bearers, who are people who are intentionally continuing to carry traditions and folkways that sometimes people are moving away from. But we are all culture bearers. We are all culture bearers, and that is a critical portion and a part of the human journey. Now, names are a really critical part of that. My name is Carol Frances Bebel. It's a second-generation name. I'm named after my infant aunt who had less than a year of life. And names are often a place where we kind of get our calling in the African tradition, for sure, but in other traditions as well. And so I'd like to have you join me in welcoming to the stage Shakandria Icon Sibley, so that she can put some other ideas about names on our minds.
We honor the name that is Carol B. Bell. My name is Shakandria, daughter of Stephen and Tawana, descendant of those who knew the importance of names, who named with purpose, who not only knew the importance of what we call each other, but also what we answer to. I am imagining an America where every single black girl knows, like my grandmother said, knows that she knows that she knows in her inner being, that her name carries more than just pain, but it also carries holiness. My mama said life would be this hard, growing up days as a black girl scarred. In every way, still we come so far, but they just know the name, they don't know the pain. Please hold your heads up high. Don't be ashamed of yourself, no, I carry you forth till the day I die. But they just know the name, they don't know the pain. Black girl. See, whenever someone asks me the meaning of my name, I used to never have an answer. I remember looking for it once in a computer at a shopping mall kiosk. Y'all know the ones where the meanings of names are saved, then engraved into cute little keepsakes. Thinking all the while the chances of me finding my big old name would be like the odds of winning the sweepstakes, you know, slim to none. I got tired of people mispronouncing it, so I just shortened it to Khan, but y'all, they still got it wrong. They kept confusing me with that lady who once sang that song, Tell Me Something Good. They used to call me Shaka Khan, so tell them something I feel I should, and I correct them. My name is pronounced Shakandria. No silent letters, no accents, preferably pronounced with the drawl of a good old New Orleans accent. It just sounds so much sweeter that way. I remember that once was a day when I wished my mother would have stuck to something simple and pretty and majestic like Tiffany or maybe even Alexis, but my fate was sealed by signatures on my birth certificate granting me the right to forever bear the shame of having been given a ghetto name. So this here poem is for all the little black girls with big names, for the Shahs and Ishas, the Annas and Ikwas who were told never to write their names on applications. I see y'all. But we live in a nation where your name can tell someone your race or even your social status, because some people think only dumb ghetto folk overuse the alphabet. They chalk it up to illiteracy, never creativity, or maybe even history, and I wonder if those who assume would ever stop to think that maybe transatlantic submerged native tongues have re-emerged in the form of ghetto monikers, like my little cousin. I have a little cousin whose name is Tanisha. It sounds a lot like Tinashe, a name from the Shona tribe, meaning God is with us, because when her mother died, God was all she had. Or maybe like my friend Lakeisha, whose name sounds a lot like the Bantu name Wakisa, meaning born during the harvest. Now she's an attorney reaping from sowing seeds of working the hardest. Or maybe like me. My mama knew this little girl right here was gonna be a fighter, so she named me Shakandria, which sounds a lot like Shaka, the great Zulu warrior. See, this here poem is for every daughter who ever became a professional only to shorten her name to a letter and a period just so phone calls could be returned or higher pay earned, because we all know, don't nobody want an Isha or an equal to operate on them. But you see, a book can't be judged by its cover nor its title, and the story beneath your names can't be contained beneath the tide, so let them rise and take their rightful places on your applications and business cards, desk placards and uniforms, until one day ghetto names become the norm. But for right now, we special, you see, and there ain't another girl in the world with a name like you or me. So go forth and rep proudly for all the ghetto name girls. And if someone happens to mispronounce your name, make sure you give your neck a swirl, look them right in the eye, and correct them. My name is pronounced Shakandria. Say it right or don't say it at all.
So the content that I hold is not just mine. It's one that I share with lots of people. And so that's part of what I came to appreciate in getting ready for you today. So there are lots of different pieces that will show up during this time that we share together. So we've talked about culture rooting, culture bearing. So now let's get to the third part of the a continuum. That part of the continuum is about culture bridging. And we all know about culture bridging. Sometimes they call it code switching. But we all have known the child who has, in their zeal to imitate, wind up saying something that you would wish that the child did not say. And so bridging is that. It's when what you have come to know meets something that you don't know, that you're attracted to, that you like, et cetera, and you start bringing in. This happens sometimes both consciously and subconsciously. We all have friends who have left and gone to other parts of the country, and when they came back 2 years later, they didn't sound like they left. Often this adaptation happens without even thinking, And so bridging is also useful to us, because as we move in the world and we go to other places, there's a young friend of mine who has been in the Peace Corps, and as you move around, you start wanting to belong, because the human existence is caught between these bookends, the bookends of belonging and becoming. And so part of what drives the bridging thing is that we always want to be someplace where we belong. Even when we want to stand out, we still want to belong. And so in pursuing that, what we do is we tend to adapt. We tend to take on things, and sometimes we take it on out of admiration. Sometimes it's called peer pressure, but often it is a choice on our part to do something that makes us feel like we belong with the people that we want to belong with. And so bridging is where that happens, okay? The final piece to the continuum, like I said, very short, 40-some years down to something real short, is making, culture making. Now this is where the imagination and the creativity comes. If culture is in fact the bedrock of human existence, if it's the way that we essentially brand our uniqueness, it's the way that we manage to create the connection that makes us belong to our we. If indeed culture is that, then making culture becomes very important. And I gotta tell you, the capitalists have become very good at making culture. And then we step right into it, okay? But we are also capable of culture making. Sometimes we do it under pressure and duress, but we're capable of doing it ourselves. My personal story on that is, in 1977, my mother died in January. And it was devastating to myself and my two brothers. By about April, I began to be able to think about what was the implications of our life without my mother. One of the major things that came up for me was the fact that our holidays were going to be screwed up. Particularly the end of the year holidays, because one of my brothers, my youngest one, was born on Christmas. And so Christmas was all about being with my mother and running around and doing things and all of that. And so I kind of began to linger over like how to prevent Greg from having to have further like deep sadness at the end of the year and every year. So I then also began to think about thinking about myself, that I had two brothers. And the implication of that was that in time, they would be married, and Christmas was going to be something they were sharing with their wife, which could mean that we would be missing each other on Christmas. So I came up with the idea, and I said, they both were Catholic. I said, guys, suppose we get together after midnight mass, which is like 1:30 in the morning or so. And so now it's been 30-some years that we gather at 1:30 in the morning, and by 4 o'clock we've had our Christmas. And everybody goes off to do whatever else they want to do on Christmas Day. I came later to discover this was not a new idea. In New Orleans, this is called a Réveillon breakfast. And so this was an instance where a self-serving ritual was created. that had some healing possibility to it. So much so that when one of my brothers got married in December, he delayed his honeymoon because he did not want to be gone. He wanted to be, he wasn't going to miss Christmas. And so we have the capacity. We have the capacity to make culture. We have the capacity to make rules and roles and rituals. Parents are starting to struggle with that now around technology. The no technology zone. They got the basket on the counter in the kitchen, and you can't come to the table with the phone. We have to become better curators and better creators of culture. Culture is not just something that's passed down. The passing down is because people in the history did the same thing that I'm saying to you now. They made culture. They decided to do certain things in certain ways at certain times with certain people, and those are the things that we are bearing and carrying on. And so we have the capacity to do that well. And in these days and times, it is really critical for us to understand that and to start looking at how we can use culture as a response to all of the divisiveness and all of the difficulty that we have going on in our world right now. These divisions and these fissures are really serious, and we are supposed to be concerned about them, and a little bit afraid about them. But I just remind you that for every generation there's been a struggle for equity and justice, for progress, that this is not something special happening. This is just happening for us at this time. And it makes a difference when we understand that. People try to have us to believe that this is exceptional. It is not. It is not. There have been times and times and times before when we have felt like everything was about to come to an end. And so these divisive ways of talking about and thinking about things divide us and make it hard for us to find ways to be together. And so I want you to welcome Asali Divine Ecclesiastics to the stage as she talks to us a little bit about chasms.
There are some chasms so deep and so wide, we find it hard to imagine how to make it safely to the other side. The space between who we are and who we want to be, the gaps that separate our high ideals from our base realities, the distance between what we say and what we really mean, the raging river between what actually happened and the convenience of our memories. The lies we tell ourselves are lakes, overflowing their banks, flooding our speech with waters caustic and rank. And the only bridge is the truth, stretching between me and you as we look one another in the eye. But so often that look is filled with our hesitations, and we can't help but glance to the side. See, we've long ago let go of the language with which we describe our softer parts. We learned early that those with softer hearts suffer, so we allow lean emotion to reign. Never noticing only strain has been the fruit of our restraint. We haven't escaped pain, and our battle scars are far from faint. Yet and still, despite our desire and our willingness to heal, we often find ourselves fighting hard in the pain, holding on to false images of everything we ain't. So while our dreams coincide, our fears collide, and we want to know one another, but think we can't. The gulf between empathy and equity is unfathomable as the fissures lining our collective integrity. And we spend internal eternities trying to explain that into virtue. Perhaps you have met one or two of the virtuous on your path. There are only very few. And I know that I have from time to time mistaken pretenders for real, yet still make room for the possibility that it's I who's been pretending. Please bear with me, y'all. I'm still mending, but I'm no longer bending to the will of my injuries nor my injurers. I much prefer to stretch my arms like Newt till I become the sky. I'd rather stretch my tongue with truth, our bridge to cross when we look one another in the eye. But the tongue, like the heart, gets tired. The weak make it hard for the strong to stay inspired. Like the lost prevent the found from escaping the mire. And the degraded stop the enlightened from taking us higher. But no matter what we hear from the mouths of these liars, we are one people with one destiny and a common enemy. That's why it really stresses me to see our hearts so tattered, our minds so scattered, our egos so easily flattered. We are enslaved, yet think of our shackles as gifts. Rather than resist our masters, we let them widen our rifts. Like mindless material junkies, we seek that which lowers, not lifts. But somewhere in our midst, there's been a paradigm shift. Justice is getting restless in its chains. Our youth find it useless to separate their souls from their brains. Their truth is ingrained, their integrity sustained. Let me call your attention to those who should serve as our examples. Those who daily give their all, but their reserves are still ample. Those who battle friend and foe, yet their hope is never trampled. They make music, never sample, and the words ugly could never cancel the fullness and the sweetness of their composition, nor the unadulterated truth of their mission. It's time we close our mouths and listen. Shut our eyes and pray for the humility and the guidance to follow them to the way.
Like the folks in the church would say, speak, child, speak. So we have, you say it to me, culture, 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 culture. Oh my goodness, you got 100. A plus. And so the thing that's left, there's a saying that says seeing is believing. And so this understanding did not generate out of me sitting and being a big thinker. This understanding generated out of being with people, watching people, learning from people, and discovering something that was just really basic in many ways. And the laboratory for a lot of this work was the Ashe Cultural Arts Center. And so this word Ashe, we've said it often, comes to us from the people of West Africa, the Yoruba people. And it means the ability to generate a possibility, comes closest to being amen. It is a spirit that moves among all of us. We all have Ashe capacity. And so I would invite you right now to sit for a few minutes and look at how we made and brought the continuum to life in the establishment of Ashe Cultural Arts Center.
To be, to become, to ignite. A spark rising across oceans and lifetimes, yielding progress and power with purposeful precision, commanding change. Bright, illuminating ancestral spark, sacred breath-blown sovereignty, inspiring insight to innovate, to see beyond, to invoke meaning in the moments, the ability to be more, to vision the future, to make things happen. And we say, Ashe.
It's been said that the journey of 1,000,000 miles begins with one step. A small community took a step into the possibility of a future that could create a cultural energy that could assist and support all of the fabulous things that happen here in New Orleans. And we find ourselves now 20 years later, having seen and done and been and invested in so many things, so many people.
Working with what some people would call folk artists, some people would call street artists, but basically, like you said, another kind of artist. They're working with them do something for you that you don't think he was getting at Dillard or someplace else?
It did, because what it did was made me understand the connection between art and community, right? You know, we were, during the 60s and the 70s, everybody was looking to Africa and trying to find a context on which they could live and grow and do their work. And everything we heard about Africa was that the artists were an essential part of the community. You didn't create outside your community. You just didn't create art for art, right? Whatever you created was a part of the community you lived in. And I think Tambourine and Fan and the cultural elements in the city, the Indians and second line groups, you know, afforded me the opportunity to feel and understand that really in a true context, because you were essentially creating for the community.
The most memorable experience I had there and most moving was when the Freedom Riders completed their journey to New Orleans. And I guess it probably would have been in 2011 as a part of the 50th anniversary. Remember the Freedom Rides from 1961 got interrupted in Alabama when racists stormed the buses, burned the buses, beat the Freedom Riders. In 2011, a lot of those original riders got the chance to complete that ride with young people. They came to Ashe and debarked from there. And then they had a gathering where people talked and celebrated and talked about this completion of this 50-year journey.
Oriki, Yana, Ileomo, Yana, Ileoko, Yana, Ileiku, Yana, Oriki, Yana, Ileomo, Yana, Ileoko, Yana.
You get a moment in time in a city where no one is almost willing to argue with you that racism is alive and well. You have the opportunity to just savor that moment and go on, or you have the opportunity to grab the moment and try to get something more out of it.
In our everyday everything, culture is a part of it. Our youth, through our Kuumba Institute, becoming strong and saying, I am Kuumba, I am creativity, I am Kuumba, a sense of who they are. Our programs have brought the world to us. People have learned and heard about the work we're doing here at Ashe Cultural Arts Center. As a result of that, they seek us out. When there was a disaster in Japan, Japan wanted to know how did Ashe help in the recovery of New Orleans after the hurricane. And we went to them at their request to show them how culture was the bridge.
When I was working for Ashe, and I decided that I wanted to start my own business, Ashe and Mama Carol still were of support of that. So even from branching off into starting my own business and stepping into my Kuja Chagalia, Ashe has been there. Whether it's to recommend me for jobs or to hire me as a photographer or videographer, to buy some of my art, to provide me with a platform to show my art, a space to host events that could bring more awareness to the work I'm doing. You know, I appreciate all the things that Ashe is doing, and I hope to see, in our work, to see that Ashe is able to continue this work from young people I'm working with, and to really like motivate the community to continue to invest in Ashe.
Ashe was the first people, were the first people to pay me to write a poem. They were the first place where I felt like you know, who I was and the things that I cared about and the people I cared about were truly respected and elevated in a way that I had never seen in any other kind of institution, be it educational or artistic or anything like that.
Amazingly, annually, given the small staff that Ashe Cultural Arts Center has, the entity produces more than 1,500 events every year. And over the past 20 years, that has resulted into more than 100,000 visits.
Right after the storm, Ashe was a place to find out everything that was going on, how you can get some aid. You just wanted to get some water. If you just needed a place to come vent and talk to somebody, you know, we all came to Ashe. All this. Ashe was the first place that we were able to put on, like, the first spoken word reading after the storm. And now you got a bunch of poets who didn't have a place to live, and now they're living on top of Ashe.
My work with the senior citizens has been phenomenal. We go to them twice a week and we exercise with them, you know, get them moving, and we call it move and groove. So through dance and creative movement, we get them to do exercises.
This journey of 20 years has been made possible by a dream team. Board, staff, volunteers, and supporters. An engine that could and continues to chug along, creating the flurry of events and activities and opportunities at Ashe Cultural Arts Center. Without them, there would be no Ashe. And so we learn again the lesson that we is stronger than I or me.
Sacred space, where the city finds its center. On that boulevard of remember, we find you. Culture rising from deep beneath your bones, deep inside your exposed walls, reminding us of what it takes to be bold and beautiful. Dancing across blackness and brilliance, offering color and communion to each of those who cross its threshold. Layered in love, for every soul, young and old, believing in the power of possibility, here find sanctity. You who pound feet into the ground. You, architect of feather and crown. You who dare to make sound with hands and words and movement, magic and music. You, revolutionary in the art of remembrance and resistance. You are welcome here. Here, find home.
And we say, Ashe. So a point of great pride for me is having been a part of creating Ashe First Generation. Some would say it was a fool's errand. nothing to something. It is with great pride that I invite to the stage Asali Divine Ecclesiastics, Frederick Hollywood Delahousse, and who's missing is Joanne Miner, the triumvirate that has taken on second generation leadership for the Ashe Cultural Arts Center. And please stand with me and applaud them.
I'm on this side.
Please stay, yeah. And so I didn't get to tell you initially like who I am now, you know, and so now I consider myself a community scholar. It took a long time to be able to figure out how I fit into that scholar thing, but my time with Imagining America was helpful in terms of doing that. And the thing that I have more gingerly taken on is being able to call myself also an artist. And it is with great pride that I'm going to share with you now a piece of work that will be coming out pretty soon. And it's a song that has been really important across the world, really. In Japan, when we couldn't speak to people, the bass line from Stand By Me came up, and there were faces smiling all across the room. With 700 people at a racial healing conference, there was a need to bring people together into their hearts, and not so much into their heads, and Stand By Me was there to be able to do it. And so today, I'd like to share that with you as I talk with you and ask you to think for a moment about how you can be better, how you can be better in the world. The world doesn't need us to be angry and enraged only. It doesn't need us to just call people out and to speak truth to power. What we need right now is for us to be calling people in. My heart is broken by the reversal of Roe v. Wade. But we did learn the lesson. We stood on the feminist posture, and we were not willing to listen to people who could be our allies in this. And other folks didn't care what else they believed. They just said, come over here, be with us. And over 50 years, they slowly eroded something that had been so sacred to us. We've got to learn how to do a better job about building bridges. And so I ask you to close your eyes and stand and listen. So darling, stand. Will you stand? Will you stand? Will you become better? Will you do more? Will you listen? Oh, stand by me. Darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand. Oh, stand by me. When I'm in trouble, stand by me. When I'm lonely, stand by me. When I'm hurt and afraid, stand by me. I will stand by you. When trouble comes, I will stand by you. When you're alone, I will stand by you. When you're hurt and lonely, I will stand by you. Stand by me. Thank you. Thank you. That's a good idea. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear Carol Bebel. And another thanks to Wood, who helped put this whole show together. Thank you, Wood. and everyone who came and shared your beauty with us this morning. Thank you so much. My only parting message is we are on schedule, but we need everyone to get to the buses. And I know you want to hug and chat and linger, but we want to get everyone to the first session on campus at Tulane so folks don't miss that first session block. So if you could get towards the buses, and we're going to fill the first one entirely, so you might be waiting as we fill that first bus, and then you'll get direction to start on that second bus. So thank you everyone so much, and we'll see you for the gathering over at Tulane University.